Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Salem City Council for August 11th, Monday, 2025. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Here.
Here.
Councilor Matthews?
Here.
Councilor Gwynn?
Here.
Councilor Brown?
Present.
Councilor Vane?
Here.
Councilor Nordyke?
Present.
Councilor Varney?
Here.
Mayor Julie Hoy?
Here. Councilor Nordyke, would you please lead us in the pledge? Council President Nishioka, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes. I move to approve 2 additions.
Second.
Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. We have an addition to 5A with a presentation from Ms. Numbury, and then a correction on time on item number 6D.
Thank you. Okay, we have a first motion and a second. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Nishioka?
Aye.
Councilor Matthews?
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn?
Aye.
Councilor Brown?
Aye.
Councilor Vang?
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke?
Aye.
Councilor Varney?
Aye.
Councilor Tigan?
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy?
Aye. Okay, we're moving on now to Council and City Manager comment. Anyone have anything they'd like to share this evening? Councilor Vang?
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple of comments on the consent agenda, particularly item 3.3A, the renewable grant. I think this is a great step for the city to take, especially because the health and resilience of our environment is an issue that affects all aspects of our lives. So every step, no matter how small, we take to increase our use in renewable energy and lowering our greenhouse gas emission is a win. And what 3.3A does is align Salem to be closer to our climate action plan, and specifically making our parkades, our public property, more renewable energy and starting that micro power grid. So I really am glad to see that we're taking the next steps to meeting our climate action plan. And then I also wanted to make a couple comments on item 3.3B for the additional funds that are going towards Center 50 Plus. I saw that this come up on our agenda, and our city staff has been helpful in kind of helping me understand kind of why this was brought to City Council. And from my understanding, it's essentially that the current livability levy did not take into account this new money that Center 50 Plus is receiving. And so we are just increasing the budget to reflect this additional funding that Center 50 Plus is receiving. And so I think this is a testament to just how critical the services that Center 50 Plus provides is, and that any additional funding that Center 50 Plus can receive is a benefit for our community. So those are my public comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. Well, I have a few things. It's more community oriented. I want to say that on August 5th, some of my fellow counselors and I had the opportunity to be involved right along with a police officer to the National Night Out. It was great. I got to ride with Deputy Chief Debbie Aguilar and Girl Power Go. It was great. And we got to go to 5 parties that were in Ward 2, and everyone, it was amazing how many people were there. I think partly because for a while we weren't sure we were going to be able to participate. The police weren't going to be able to participate, and then it was decided that we would do that on a limited basis, and I think that inspired some of our neighbors to get the party going. So that was great. I also attended the Grant Neighborhood Association. As most of you know, we have not been able to go to our neighborhood associations until just recently. We've been given the green light, and Councilor Tigan was unable to attend Grant, and he's the only counselor, so I went on his behalf, and Ms. Donbury was with me, so I think they were well represented and appreciated us going. I also want to make note of the Marion Berries, the Salem baseball team, who made it to the finals, and this is in history, the first time an inaugural team got this far. And so they played the Portland Pickles on Friday and unfortunately lost 4-3, but they tried their best, and then the next night they also lost that game. So they made it to finals, but next year maybe we'll see them there again. And then on Saturday, I participated at Busch Barn in the Angry Owl Ultra Marathon, and I just want to give a shout out to the gentleman, Josh Christensen, who has got this organized for the last 9 years, even through COVID. People come from Illinois, Connecticut, Florida, California, and there were 98 of us out there choosing to run either 6 hours, 12 hours, or 24 hours, a 1-mile loop. A 1-mile loop. And I think it's fantastic that so many people come from afar to do this. I survived 3 hours, so we'll see if next year I can do better. Then I want to also say that I know I saw Councilor Tigan at the Inglewood Forest Festival, and what a great turnout that was as well. And I appreciate the staff that attended from Public Works, Parks, and Salem Police. So it was a really great event, and the weather was comfortable enough, and I think everyone had a good time. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Nordick.
Thank you so much, folks. On a more somber note, first of all, I love to see, we have homeless advocates in the audience, so I always appreciate seeing you ladies. I know how hard you work for some of Salem's most vulnerable residents, so I really appreciate your ongoing participation and attendance of these meetings. On days like today, when it is super, super hot out, it is super, super dangerous for a lot of vulnerable people. Can you imagine living in your car in a day like today? Can you imagine living in a park in a day like today? And so whenever I see these ladies, I'm reminded that the work never ends, right? And no single person can solve or address all these challenges, but that doesn't relieve us of the desire and the urge to work. So I do appreciate, it's always wonderful to see you here tonight. And while I'm also looking at my computer screen, I got an email from Jimmy Jones, who runs the local community action agency. He periodically sends out emails to a variety of elected officials just to update us on various things. And he is pointing out the fact that homeless prevention funds in the state have been reduced by over 72% for the 23 to 25 biennium. We already have strained regional food banks, and we are now facing cuts to SNAP and Medicaid. On top of that, he points out the fact, something that I think we are all very much aware, that a lot of our renters are struggling to stay indoors too. There are so many people on the cusp of homelessness, and according to this email, half of the renters in the state of Oregon are cost burdened, meaning they spend 30% of their income on their rent, and a quarter of them are severely cost burdened, meaning they spend half of their income or more on housing. So I see a lot of challenges ahead. There's a lot of discussion of what the potential Medicaids might look like, and they're scary. There's a potential loss of $10 billion with a B, in Medicaid funding over the next 2 years to a system where 1 in 3 Oregonians are covered by the Oregon Health Plan, and that includes half of the kids in our state. So when I see emails like this, I'm reminded that as a city, I feel that my duty is to our most vulnerable residents first and foremost, who do not have the safety net that I have, for example. So these are the sorts of things that when I start my council meetings, I start with reading information like this, because I know that our decisions will always disproportionately impact the most vulnerable among us. So thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to the meeting.
Thank you. Anyone further? No. Okay, I do have a couple of things to remark about. One is a remembrance for Mark Green, the founder here in Salem for Make Music Day. I want to take a moment to honor the life and legacy of Mark, who passed away last week. Mark was the heart and soul of Make Music Day in Salem. It launched in France in 1982. Mark brought Make Music Day here to Salem in 2016. As one of more than 2,000 cities around the world who celebrate every kind of musician, Mark was a tireless advocate for the power of community and the universal language of music. Through his vision and leadership, he transformed what was once a simple celebration on the first day of summer into one of Salem's most cherished events, bringing together musicians of all ages and backgrounds to fill our streets with joy, rhythm, and connection. Mark didn't just organize an event. He built a tradition, one that reflected his deep belief in creativity, accessibility, and community spirit. His passion will be deeply missed, but his legacy will continue to echo through every note played on Make Music Day in Salem in the years to come. So thank you, Mark. Secondly, I did experience National Night Out in a different way this year. Last Tuesday night, I reported to the Salem PD Community Room for National Neighborhood Night Out. Deputy Chief Upkeys received his initial call then about a missing 11-year-old child in Northeast Salem. She was last seen in the company of a stranger. Throughout our evening of neighborhood night out parties, my mind was stuck on the thought of that missing child. I prayed hard for her, her family, and all of those searching. As a parent and a grandparent, this kind of situation is what nightmares are made of. I prayed the little one would be found and unharmed. At around 8:30 p.m., Deputy Chief Upkeys received word that the little girl had been found. While I was relieved she was found and alive, it terrified me to think of what she might have experienced. The officers located 48-year-old Elijah Galaviz Ars with the missing child in a secluded area covered by shrubbery. Detectives determined Ars lured the child away from her residence. The 11-year-old was outside the home when Ars convinced her to leave with him. Ars, who has no known Salem address, was lodged at Marion County Jail on charges of kidnapping in the first degree, attempted rape in the first degree, and unlawful delivery of a controlled substance to a minor. This remains an open investigation. Ars has a significant criminal history, including prior sexual offenses. The child was found thanks to a concerned community member, Deputy Chief Aguilar stated. Neighbors in the area were instrumental. They helped by providing home security footage as well as taking the time to walk their blocks to look for the little girl. The request for extra eyes was published on the Salem PD Facebook page and the Nextdoor app. Additional assistance was also provided by Salem Kaiser Public Schools, who published the information to families and faculty in that part of the district. The Kaiser Police Department and Mary County Sheriffs also provided assistance by covering calls for service, allowing all Salem police officers to participate in the search. There are a lot of good people in the world, and many of them live in Salem. As mayor, the responsibilities in this position are great. Last Friday, Gretchen Bennett and I met with the victim's father for an hour. Their family is suffering in the aftermath of this situation. They are grateful to everyone who helped to search for their little girl. Since meeting with the victim's father, I've been troubled by many things. Most importantly, the fact that this man, a convicted sex offender, is living without a known address and as an unregistered sex offender here in Salem, Oregon. I read in a K2 article published August 8th that Mr. Arce is not alone. According to the article, he is living here in Oregon as an unleveled sex offender. Oregon classifies most sex offenders into 3 categories based on their danger to the public and likelihood to offend: 3, 2, or 1. However, staffing and funding limitations in the state's parole board have left about 18,000 people convicted of sex crimes without a statewide classification level. The state estimated that more than 12,000 lived or work in Oregon early this year. The article goes on to say, state leaders have said the backlog is largely due to the creation of the Sex Offender Notification Leveling Program in 2013 and the legislature's decision to move the responsibility of classifying sex offenders from the Department of Corrections to the Parole Board in 2015. The backlog includes the accused involved in this recent kidnapping here in Salem. Our community needs the state's help. We are facing public safety issues made worse by decisions made by the legislature. Bad decisions made. I'm grateful that the little one was found and grateful for the good people in this community, law enforcement, and every citizen who rallied to help. My focus remains greater public safety in Salem, in every aspect. Salem deserves better. I will keep learning about the broken systems we are forced to endure and looking for ways to bring about real change. I'm also looking forward to the further discussion in our meeting this evening under item 5A. Thank you for listening. Anyone have anything else to add? Okay, then we will move on. We have no proclamations, no presentations, and we're moving on to public comment. I will call 2 names at a time. Please come forward to the podium. Make sure the green light is on the microphone. Please state your name, your address, or your ward for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. I call first Lori Walker and then Linnell Wilcox. Hit the button. Please hit the button there, Lori, so your mic's on.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Hoy. I'm Lori Walker. I live in Ward 2 in the Scan area on Capitol Street. So on the 30th, I attended a business forum. It was labeled as a business forum, but it came across as a public notice on various social media sites. And I attended it. And so part of what I've already sent in is in referral to that, and part of what I'm speaking to tonight is also in regards to that. So it seems to me that someone in the city has decided to gather information from the loudest, most vocal people to fit somebody's personal narrative. I am concerned that cherry-picking information from business forums is not the way the City Council should be addressing issues. The North Lancaster Business Forum I attended was appalling to me. For the city to hold a public forum that allows people to lump all unsheltered people as criminals, thieves, addicts, who have no opportunity for them to be there to speak up, or for any of us who are advocates to speak up or say, I represent a family who's been married for 15 years and has 4 children living in their vehicle. They're not addicts. They're not alcoholics. They're trying to survive. So there's so many invisible people that are homeless that people don't have a clue about, but the ones we hear about are the ones causing problems. A good share of those are addicts. A good share are mentally ill. But it's not illegal to be mentally ill. It's not illegal to be homeless. But to listen to such derogatory comments for a period of time was very hard to keep quiet. And I raised my hand numerous times. I was told I couldn't talk. I wasn't a business person, but yet I was to sit there and not be divisive and listen to such terrible comments. Bias and untrue, hateful comments were not only permitted, they were not stopped. That type of forum promotes hate, bias, and stigma against poor people trying to survive, mentally ill, battling their own brains and others. We all live here. We all need solutions for businesses, neighbors, in homes and without homes. We are all people. They are us. They are our children, parents, siblings. At the end, I did speak up without permission, and I was told I needed to stop, which I did then. No agencies providing services were on the panel, no mental health people. No one was being talked about. The people being talked about weren't invited.
Thank you, Lori. I'm sorry the clock hasn't been visible, but your time has expired.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. I beg your pardon?
I'd like to hear what she has to say because she was talking so loud I could hear only half of what she was saying. And I think that's very disrespectful. She should have more time to finish.
We'll add 30 seconds to the clock.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So agencies that provide services were not on the panel. There was no mental health response. So much was lacking. So no one being talked about was there. The forum was very inclusive. I think we need to do better. I'm thankful that our police chief and fire chief promote inclusion of mental health. I'm very much in support of their ideas of what we can do to resolve things, but I also think we as people, shame on us when we can't talk about people without the name calling, without the derogatory comments, and I just don't think it should be allowed. If I sat up here and started calling people names, I'd be off.
Thank you for your testimony. I have help with the clock now. Thank you. So Linnell Wilcox and then Ashley Cunningham.
Hi, my name is Linnell Wilcox and I live in Ward 1. I work at Safe Sleep United, which is a low-barrier, year-round women's shelter. Jay is a lady who struggles with mental health and she stayed with us for a while. She shared about some of the extreme abuse she experienced since she was a young child, and she sometimes spoke openly about her multiple personalities. We tried for a long time to have her stay inside with us, yet her past haunts her vividly and loudly. Almost every night, one or more personalities are screaming or crying and having conversations with people we can't see. That much chaos and pain in high volume doesn't enable other people to sleep well, so we couldn't have her stay inside much longer. Because she's a fellow human being, a warrior surviving in spite of her past abuse and trauma, we made sure she wasn't freezing, starving, or dying of thirst. Sometimes Jay would ask us for food and say we never feed her. We can tell her that we may not have fed her, but we did give dinner to someone else who lives inside her body. Yet if she's starving now, we'll feed her too. One night she was outside screaming and crying as she loudly spoke and sobbed at people we can't see. She came to our door in tears, explaining she just wants to sleep, but they won't let her. Is it possible we have earplugs she can use? So we gave her earplugs and hot cocoa. The voices still loudly talked and cried, sobbed and screamed outside. She came back to the door in extreme exhaustion and total tears and handed me the earplugs and told me they don't work. What can you say to that? Her nightly screaming happens to her, not by her. No one wants to hear that screaming, least of all Jay. She's one of the many people who struggle with mental health and would be camped downtown, in a neighborhood, a strip mall, or in a park with nowhere else to go. Jay often smells strongly of pee, not because she's incontinent, but because she hopes that smell might deter men from raping her. Think about that. Where can people be when shelter beds are filled or not a fit? Where can people be when mental health hospitals are full and understaffed and the bar is so high and expensive that they can't get the help they need? Where do they go as we tell them they can't be anywhere? Jay and every individual, sheltered or not, is a fellow human being. Many of them are warriors surviving in spite of neglect, abuse, and trauma. I used to think that if some people can experience horrific things and still thrive, it's possible for anyone to pull up their bootstraps. Just do it. Now I think some people just get more resiliency than others. No one wants to smell like pee, live on sidewalks, poop in doorways, or hear that screaming, least of all Jay. Substitute anyone's name here. Please think about Jay as you consider Salem's safety and livability. She could be your brother, sister, mom, dad, son, daughter, or you if you lost your health, money, memory, or mind. We have a responsibility to offer dignity, respect, basic human needs, and equitable human rights to enable safety and livability for all. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Ashley Cunningham.
Hello. Hi, my name is Ashley Cunningham. I am a small business owner. I own a women's only gym downtown Salem. I just want to share a little bit of my experience that I have had multiple situations where I have had to be called down to the gym, walk women to the gym because they're fearful of their safety because of grown men screaming, throwing things outside of my front door, and I think there is room for both. I think there need to be more resources for the unhoused. I think they deserve our empathy and support, and they are people, and also downtown does need more safety. I also want to give a quick shout out that we did have an incident where the police had to come and escort my members to their cars, and they came and did a wonderful job doing that, and were very helpful, so wanted to thank them as well. So thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Okay, we're now moving on to the consent calendar. Councilor Nishioka?
Yes, I move for approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. The consent calendar consists of the July 28th, 25 draft City Council minutes, Resolution 3.2A, adopt resolution number 2025-9, authorizing a transfer of $70,000 in appropriations within the city's fiscal year 2026 budget for tree planting. Item number 3.2B, which is adopt resolution number 2025-19, fiscal year supplemental budget 1, increasing expenditures, appropriation authority, and revenues in the local option levy fund for Center 50 Plus. Action item 3.3A, authorize the interim city manager to submit an application to the Community Renewable Energy Grant Program, and if successful, enter into agreement with the Oregon Department of Energy to accept the funds. That concludes the consent calendar.
Great. Any questions?
To plant trees while women are being raped.
Any questions from anyone on council? No? Okay. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn. Aye. Councilor Brown.
Aye.
Councilor Vang.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney. Aye. Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. We're moving on to special orders of business to item 5A, and I believe we have a presentation. by Interim City Manager Krishna Namburi. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Scott, could you please put that in presentation mode for me, please? Thank you. Could you please put it in presentation mode? So while Scott is kind of working on that, I do want to begin by acknowledging and thanking staff for their hard work on this over the past few months. And tonight, I do have a few slides to share. What you will see with your packets, Mayor and councilors, that I do have the presentation printed and also a strategic action plan for the next 2 years, and I'll kind of walk us through that in a minute. So my goal tonight is to give a clear update on where we are, ensure we are all on the same page about the progress that we have made, and outline what to expect moving forward. You're still working on it? Can you go to the... Scott, if you could press that, the right bottom part to make it into a PowerPoint presentation.
Which button? So that's the button I pushed to get this view, was the slideshow button. So I'm going to hit end slideshow. So I hit that slideshow button.
It's down at the bottom right. On there. Left click.
Is it still thinking?
It's not showing right in that mode.
No worries, we'll just kind of go to the next slide. And on July 21st, I just want to give a council work session recap. The council met for a work session on safety and livability. The discussion focused on setting clear objectives and goals for how we improve safety and livability. And if you can go to the next slide, Scott. So from a safety and livability piece, we have not yet had a full discussion on long-term plan for enhancing safety and livability services. And of course, this includes like a long-term plan to enhance public safety services. Like we haven't had a full-length conversation about crime prevention, community violence reduction initiative, and drug prevention and enforcement, and also addressing challenges faced by unsheltered population. And I will talk about that in a minute as we kind of move forward. So the next slide, please. So for immediate priorities, when we are looking at the immediate priorities, that is from now to December 2025. So while long-term solutions are still in development, we decided to take action on few items, which is increasing police visibility, which was in both hotspots of Salem, and that was implemented in July, and also improved cleanliness. And we are actively exploring options with the goal of launching some temporary measures sometime in like October of this year. And these steps address to manage the immediate needs while we have a lot of work to do to work towards sustainable strategies. Next slide, please. So with the near-term planning, which is the council work session that is scheduled for September 18th, The council will have a holistic discussion on the budget forecast and some sustainable funding options if there are any available, and then also the services we can realistically provide to improve safety and livability in Salem. So this will be a key decision point for aligning our ongoing resources with the top priorities that we have. Do you want to go to the next slide, please? And this is the long-term vision. And again, when I'm looking at the long-term vision, what does it look like from July 2026 onwards? That's our fiscal year 27. So one of the pieces that we have to be having that conversation about the revenue and funding options for expanding cleanliness programs, sustainable co-response model. I know I'll talk about that in a minute, but in the near term, one of the options is to pilot co-response model. But as we are looking at the long-term vision, we have to look into funding, that is sustainable funding for co-response model. Bicycle team is something that has been given as one of the recommendations for fiscal year 27. And then, of course, sustainable and enhanced public safety and livability services. So that is, on the right side, you'll see some of the stuff that we will be exploring in the March to July timeframe. We will be having a conversation about the budget and funding options. The council gets to make a decision on the continuation of co-response model and implementation of bicycle team and what that looks like. And then in July, hopefully we'll be able to implement those 3 services in the city. And then we do have to have a conversation about what does it mean for long-term over a period of time for the city with different services that we are providing and what is sustainable and what is not. And so as we are looking into it, and I'll cover the strategic action plan in a minute, but a lot of what we are talking about today depends on how the forecast is for the next 5 years. And so the council will have that conversation in September. So that is a good point where we can really think about what is doable and what is not. But all of the work that we have and you have done over the past few months really helps us when you have that conversation in September to move forward with some actionable items in there. Scott, next slide. So what you see in your packet, and if anybody in the audience wants, I do have a few extra, but you'll see this 11 by 17 strategic plan document. And for readability purpose, we have divided this into 3 different slides. So what you're looking at is the city council objectives and goals as we move forward. What you have given us through the work sessions and through the July 21st work session and the previous conversations that we had, the council had a discussion about public safety, need for increasing public safety, behavioral health help, and then also cleanliness. Those are the 3 that have been identified. And then within public safety, what we heard was there was some conversation about community violence reduction, but I don't think we really talked about how to kind of move forward with it or the resources. There was conversation about drug prevention and enforcement, and there is also some conversation about crime reduction. And with the behavioral health help, the 3 pieces that we heard is the council being supportive to pilot co-response model, and also the need for collaboration with other agencies. And there was some possible ambassador program, something that we should explore if possible. And then the cleanliness is basically increasing cleanliness and also finding out that sustainable funding model for SOS team was another thing that we also talked about. So as you kind of look into the document, you can see those vertical columns, that is your quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4, really be kind of looking into what have we done until now, and how do we kind of move forward with this? So from July through September of this year, there's a lot of council conversation about it. June 23rd, you guys had some discussion about the information report and the council work session, and here we are in the council meeting. Another opportunity for us to talk about this, and then September 18th to discuss funding so that as we move forward, we can have that some actionable items that we can implement. That was the whole point of planning it this way. And then from October to December, what you can expect, that our plan is to bring back to the council an information report format so that you get to see the decisions that you have made and how we kind of move forward with it. And then the January through July is a perfect opportunity for us to have the budget discussion. And again, we need to be, if safety and livability has been identified as number one by this council and the community, so we need to continue to have this conversation and also tie it to the budget discussions. And so the next slide, Scott, thank you. So the community engagement side of it, so this is what has been our plan, and I apologize to the community members that our intention from the beginning has been to engage different stakeholders. We should have, or I should have, better communicated this on how we were planning on approaching community engagement. So looking at the some of the events that have been happened, Salem Main Street Forum was something that we were invited to join. So we did kind of hear from the downtown business owners. And on July 30th, that was a city organized event, and we did reach out to Northeast business owners about having a forum to talk about their concerns. And our plan is to have a forum for homeless advocates, and hopefully we can schedule something sooner than later. But that is something that August and September, our focus is to do community engagement with different stakeholders. And the two pieces that we are still in the planning stage is the need, as I was kind of talking to some of the neighborhood associations and the community members, some of the residents also kind of wanting to participate in this, and so we have to somehow get some feedback from the residents and the neighborhood associations, and we don't really have a plan on how we are going to do that, but that is something that we'll be working in August and September. So that's I call them like swim lanes because they're different things that are happening at the same time. So that is the community engagement side of it. And with the partners, and this is like we have been active in engaging county to explore some options and the funding, and I think we need to continue to do that as we move forward, especially as we are getting ready for that co-response model, possibility of co-responsible model in January. Next slide, please, Scott. So and then again, this is the lane for police. And we have talked, I did kind of mention that increasing police visibility in downtown and Northeast Salem, that was implemented on July 24th, I guess. And so that will continue until the end of the year as we are trying to figure out a permanent, more sustainable, solution to this. And hopefully, depending on how the budget and forecast works out in fiscal year 27, we did hear the need to bring a bicycle team, and then we also heard from the Northeast Salem business owners about the need to increase police presence in that area too. So, and again, there are a lot of both from the downtown and the Northeast section of the Salem, there are organized thefts in both areas, and that has been kind of increasing. And these are the people that, not from Salem, they're from outside of Salem that are participating in this organized crime. So the presence of the police presence in both areas is important to reduce that crime. And then from a fire lane, and this is the co-response model that we talked about. The one in yellow is the co-response model. And as you're reading this document, I know some of you in the audience might not be able to see it, but in the city council goal, there is like colors, like there is yellow, there is blue. So if you are going to look into the document and say, what are we doing about the behavioral health help, then you can see the same color will show some actionable items that are associated with that particular goal. So that's kind of how the document reads. So we talked about adding 2 homeless services and then pairing emergency medical care with mental health intervention. So that's the co-response model that we would, piloting that in January to see how that works out. And as you are looking at that Salem outreach and livability services, we are exploring options to increase cleanliness, and I don't have exact action associated with it, but our hope is to implement increased cleanliness with some temporary funding. As you can see, the bottom lane has like the funding model. So those are all some possible funding options. And again, we don't know how these funds are performing yet, but there is more to kind of come on this. The implementing that increased cleanliness with the temporary funding is using the general fund, and hopefully we can do something sooner than later and not wait until January on this. My hope is to start doing something hopefully in October of this year. And then there's a lot of conversation about the downtown paid parking, and that is, if you remember from our last meeting, CFO Josh Eggleston talked about the downtown paid parking has to be focused into downtown services. So that's kind of why you see that increasing cleanliness, and the downtown bicycle team is like where we are kind of connecting that funding to. And there are a lot of unknowns about with other funding models there. EMS, there was some conversation about that. Capital district funding, we still have to kind of explore that. Possible county support as we move forward. And then also the URA closures that we have been talking about it for a while. So that's kind of what the document is. And I apologize that this is kind of a big document, but our goal with this is when we are talking about safety and livability, I wanted to have everything in one document so that we are all kind of have the same information on this. So that's that with, and then if you can go to the next slide, Scott. So this is just like a one-pager if you want to know how, what we are kind of have done so far and how we are moving forward with it. We just kind of put it in a different format in case if this is helpful. So that's kind of what I have with this presentation. But before I conclude, I do want to kind of bring up something to the council and to this community. So earlier, I know with July 21st work session, and I did make the statement when I opened up the conversation, was there is a difference between managing the issue and addressing the issue. And the longer we do not address the issue, the more difficult it is for individuals that are experiencing challenges, and also it is more expensive it is for the city to manage that. No city is designed to address the issue, and we knew that we needed some help from our partners as we kind of move forward with this. The mayor applied to Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Program with the safety and livability as #1 priority. The city is applied. As part of that program, the city applied for a collaboration track. And again, this entire program is sponsored by Bloomberg. The city does not spend any money on it. So when we applied for the track, and it's a very competitive track to get into, there are 40 cities in the world that participate in it. So as we applied for the track, this is the problem statement we have given on safety and livability. Salem lacks a unified framework to collaborate with county and state partners, community-based organizations, and residents in the community with lived experiences who can provide critical thinking to deliver solutions that promote safety, belonging, and well-being for everyone. The city alone cannot solve this. Through the collaboration track, we will focus our collective energy to co-create a new approach, one that promotes shared responsibility and inspires action for a safe, livable, and vibrant Salem for everyone. So, and we came to know about the results last week, and we were selected, so just kind of a huge thing for the collaboration track. So as part of the program, Bloomberg will visit Salem in October to meet the community partners and have a discussion about how to talk about the challenges that we are facing as a community. And they will provide us 3 months coaching on collaborating in complex issues, and this is not their first gig. They have done this for many cities, and a lot of cities have benefited through their work, and then so they will kind of coach us on that collaboration process, and then they will be hosting our team in March for a intensive problem-solving workshop. And then they will be guiding us for the next year on implementing solutions. So this is, again, fully funded by Bloomberg, no cost to the city. But I am looking forward to it because I think there is definitely a sustainable and model that we need to be looking into as a community and as a city, and how to address the challenges this community is facing. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm open for any questions you have.
Salem will not bow down to globalism. The city will not bow down to globalism.
Ma'am, no, not tonight. No, you're not going to do that tonight. You can either sit and be quiet, or we can excuse you. Sir, excuse her.
Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Tigan.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and congratulations to you and the whole city on the selection for the Bloomberg program. That's great potential. It's awesome. I just want to start also by acknowledging, I know that the chart starts in July, but especially the amount of engagement that the city staff have done with neighborhood associations definitely stretches back to that, and want to acknowledge that to the community as a whole. Krishna and Josh, especially during the levy, spent a lot of time at neighborhood associations, and a lot of these conversations were happening then too. So just, there's a before July that needs to be acknowledged too, so thanks for your work doing that. One of the questions I had just about the chart, wanted to just also flag for a revenue solution, or part of the revenue puzzle, is the rewrite or the revision of the operations fee isn't on here. And that was something that I think many of us were interested in seeing initiated this fiscal year. Not sure if there's something to say there. And then another partner that I think could be identified on this chart, or part of the work, would be the Department of Transportation. I know they're in a sticky budget problem their own, but I think they're a really critical partner for managing issues in the city as well. So those are my comments.
Thank you for that, and we'll make sure to include it. So. Anyone else have a question? Councilor Varney, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the presentation. I find this chart really helpful, but I'm thinking there's so many moving parts here. Has there been any discussion about having a work group similar to what we did with the Wallace Marine homelessness issue we were doing? Has there been a discussion about a group kind of working with this instead of just, city and staff doing stuff and then it coming to council. I'm looking for something kind of in the middle.
Thank you, Councillor. We haven't talked about that. I think what our approach has been, because we are bringing this information to the council on a regular basis, and then I think it's almost like every 3 weeks we are having this conversation. But if that is something that the council wants to move forward with it, we can definitely do that. So it's for the council to give us direction on that.
Okay, thank you. I just thought it was something to kind of think about. I had one more thing I wanted to mention with the increased cleanliness. I know we talked about the SOS team. Are we going to ever have discussions about infrastructure associated with a public restroom somewhere?
At some point, yes. And then so this is kind of what I have been thinking about. We need to, when we meet in September, and as we kind of move forward into the fiscal year 27, my approach on this has been having conversations around what is doable and what is practical, right? And so because everything is associated with a dollar amount, right? We haven't, the council, when you met for the July 21st work session, there was, I don't recollect having an in-depth conversation about the public restrooms at that point. So we are also trying to kind of manage the funding availability and the focused areas. But if the council would like to have a conversation on that and give us a direction, we can definitely kind of look into what our options are.
Okay, thank you. I'm just thinking of other options to just kind of build on this whole picture. Thank you.
Councillor Varney, if I may ask a question about your first question. First, just to point out that this focus is broader than homelessness. It's public safety in general, all the way across the board. I'm curious what the work group that you found helpful was like. What was the format for that?
I think, is Gretchen here? Someone else who was on it. A lot of concerns about public safety and cleanliness with Wallace Marine Park, and so there was a work group that was convened that had partners. It had the police officers with the homeless services, others, and developed a kind of a strategic approach to go in and get individuals in Wallace Marine section by section connected with services and start that cleanup process. And it was a very productive discussion. It was more of an internal one, but it worked out really, really well. And it was I feel it was very successful.
Sorry. I can definitely talk to Gretchen Bennett about it and get some information on that, and then we'll explore that. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Nordyke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Comments, really. It feels like for the first time for a long time, I see behavioral health on this page at all. Let that sink in. For the longest time, that has been a central challenge to downtown Salem. And for the longest time, the city didn't do anything about it. It has consistently led with police to solve everything, even though they're not trained to solve everything. They're not sanitation workers, they're not caseworkers, they're not peer support specialists, they're not drug and alcohol treatment experts, they're police officers. So I am pleased to see that it's on the list for consideration. And I would also encourage, I see that there are proposals here to increase even more police above and beyond where we're already at. It already is our #1 expense in our general fund. Make no mistake, it is our top priority from a general fund. If you look merely at what our budget reflects in terms of priorities, police is clearly, and for as long as I've been on budget committee, been the #1 priority of the city's general fund. So I would push back against the notion that we don't fund our police or that we don't make them a priority. We always have. and they still will be, as far as I'm concerned. As far as if the last 5+ years on council are any measure of whether they will continue to be our #1 funded item in general fund, then it will be. But there is room for serving the many other people who do not need a police officer to respond to them. So I am pleased to see that there are other considerations that are being put back on the table for our deliberation and for the public to be aware of and to provide comment on as well. So, for example, seeing the pilot co-response model emerge on a city document is exciting. So I am very excited in finding ways to fund that, because I do believe it is certainly possible if you make it a budgetary priority. What I also notice is that as of right now, we've already implemented increased police in downtown. As indicated in our staff report, and of course my computer went to sleep because I was going to quote from it, but that city report said that they're already allocating additional overtime assignments funded by salary savings under the direction of a dedicated sergeant. So we already have responded and added more police to the downtown and Northeast Salem in response to all these concerns that are being raised, valid concerns that are being raised at the recent forums that were held. But when will we finally increase the presence of the mental health professionals and others to respond to the calls that our police will not go to, are not the appropriate choice to go to? So I'm encouraged to see that it's finally made it on the page. And I'm looking forward to exploring that further and learning more what our options are for funding it. And I understand completely. I want people to feel safe in downtown Salem. I used to work in downtown Salem. Growing up, I was a teenage girl, and I worked after school. I worked in the evening hours, and I too had to walk alone to my car at night. So when I say these things, I don't want to make it sound as if I don't care about police officers in our downtown core. They are essential, but they're just not the only thing we need in that area. That's been my position this entire time, that we need both types of resources. So I'm encouraged to see this. I, for one, am obsessed with this kind of chart. It's got the color coding. It's got it in chronological order, because what I hear from members of the public all the time is, what are you going to do next as a council? And I've got a roadmap for them, complete with dates where they can show up and testify and tell us how they feel. So I, for one, City Manager, really appreciate the way that you're going about doing this, because there have been times in prior years where I felt that every council meeting was a complete surprise.
Sorry, I just switched it off again. So thank you for that, Councilor. I just want to kind of share this story. I did create the strategic plan, and when I looked at it this morning, it did not look that great. The content was great, but the appearance was not that great. It kind of showed my incompetency with technology right now. But then I actually gave it to one of our desktop publisher, and his name is Victor Friesen. And he took my document and he kind of changed it to this. So I do want to kind of acknowledge the help that I received on this. And he was very quick, like an hour and a half, and he gave that back to me. So I want to kind of acknowledge the staff for their work. And you don't want to see the one that I created. The content was great, but no.
Thank you for that. And Councilor Nordyke, I would just like to add to that, that not only seeing the yellow and seeing the co-response model present, that's a piece of good news. To me, even further good news is the fact that we know that we can't do this without collaboration with our county partners. And so we're going about this in a different way. And I think that that's really healthy for Salem. I just wanted to add that. Go ahead.
So, Mayor, sorry, I just want to kind of, this is not something just happened just like that. We actually planned it like very well as we were applying for the collaboration track, because often you get selected if you have already on the right path, right? So we were able to kind of share where we are at, and that kind of gave us some boost in getting selected. I do think we are in a really good place where now we get to talk about how do you address the challenges, right? So I am extremely happy and excited about
working on that issue in Fadlo with this. So. Chief Womack, I'm wondering if you would want to make any comment on the numbers or the figures that were thrown out, or the position for that. Is that? Surprise, and thank you.
Mayor and Councilors, thank you. Trevor Womack, Chief of Police. Specifically, what was the question? I'm sorry, it's a little echoey in here now. I was having a hard time hearing.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was to what Councilor Nordyke spoke about the position that was added.
We've temporarily implemented a temporary measure to increase presence downtown through overtime assignments. Now, you can't keep burning your people out with overtime all the time. They're doing this on their day off, and we're compensating them for that. But we haven't dedicated staff downtown and Northeast. We're just filling gaps with overtime right now. That's the immediate temporary measure that we implemented, which I very much appreciate the authority to do so from the city manager. So. We've already had, just within the first 2 weeks of the program, we had about 40 different shifts filled by overtime officers, multiple positive community contacts. We have a temporary sergeant assigned to. That's not a permanent position either. So there's a temporary sergeant supervising the temporary management overtime. This isn't a long-term solution whatsoever, but we are immediately increasing presence through salary savings. We're actively working to fill our vacancies. That's where the salary savings comes from. You might remember 3 years ago, I had 26 police officer vacancies. Today, I think I have 12. We're always hovering around number 10 now, so we've cut that number in half, and we're going to keep filling those positions. So that's why this is a temporary measure, because we won't have this much salary savings indefinitely.
Thank you, sir. Shane, go ahead. Councilor Matthews.
So informal. And so I did want to kind of clarify that. So it sounded to me like the vacancy savings that we're seeing right now, or that's being used for this temporary measure, is vacancy savings that we saw from the police. So this is not an additional money that's going into the police department from other areas. This is just money that was already vacancy savings through here.
In fact, if I may, City Manager, but the salary savings is a policy decision that was made to allow me to use my own salary savings to fill gaps. Traditionally, police salary savings was used to help balance the general fund in general. I think the passage of the levy provides a little bit more breathing room in the general fund so that we can make a policy decision to where I can now use my salary savings to do public safety services.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And then I guess one more question, and I only mention this because I know there was some talk tonight that, you know, obviously the police is, public safety as a whole is one of our largest parts of our general fund. And so I think that gives some impression that you guys are well funded and well endowed when it comes to people. Is that the case? Is that kind of what you found, that you guys have plenty of people to do what you need?
No, and not to beat a dead horse, but I've been saying these same talking points for 4.5 years now. So we have independent analysis from 4 years ago that shows we need somewhere around 60 more police officers in a department. That's a huge number. I don't expect we're going to get 60 police officers here in Salem, but that's just the outside analysis that we had. I brought in my own outside eyes, and I came to something similar, the conclusion of our needs. And what that's caused over the years is that we've grown. We've had the same number of officers today authorized that we did in 2008. So it's just this long-term slow burn of, as our service demands increase and our population increases without adding staff, you pull back on things. And the most recent obvious example, which is part of this conversation tonight, is the elimination of the downtown bicycle team. At its height, there were 8 officers dedicated downtown doing proactive community policing work. That team doesn't exist anymore. So in effect, we have been cutting. Now our budget's growing because costs are increasing. If you look at how much money we spend on law enforcement today than we did in 2008, it's more. So our budget has grown. We haven't added staffing. So just costs have increased, but we haven't kept pace with the staffing needs of our department. So today we have the 8th, out of the 8th largest cities, we're at the bottom for the staffing ratio, officers per 1,000 people in the public. When it comes to violent crime in Oregon, we have the 2nd highest rate, only behind Portland. We have an extremely high violent crime rate compared to Oregon speaking, but a very low staffing ratio. So these are just objective facts. There's no way for me to manipulate those numbers. I'm just presenting factual information to justify my statement that we are understaffed. But we are now a reactive agency. It's caused us to move from proactive policing, like community policing downtown, to reactive, responsive, emergency response policing. That's where we're at today. Now, we're excellent at that. part of the reason we're exceptional at that and we're finding missing 11-year-olds and holding people accountable and solving violent crime at an incredibly high rate is because I've had to pull back on the proactive resources to make sure that we have enough detectives and enough patrol officers to respond to calls. If we want positive, proactive community policing, it's going to require more staffing. My recommendations in response to the mayor's request and at the behest of the city manager were in the staff report. To add 2 HST officers so we can have 7-day-a-week coverage and eventually find us a way to get back to an 8-person bicycle team. Temporarily, in the meantime, we're filling some gaps with overtime.
Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. I will, while Chief Womack is still at the podium, thank you very much. Thank you for the excellent work recently. For all accounts, not only finding the child, but also the one that I had to email you about today. You speak about, basically I had a question about the bicycle patrols. While I respect the fact that it would be community service, and I'm hoping that when that program is re-brought in, that you will have some measurable determinations to make sure that it's the police officers that should be doing that, that the expense of 8 officers dedicated for a certain area would be something that can really be evaluated. And I really want to make sure that you are permitted to have the flexibility of having your officers be where they need to be, and that could change. So I'm sort of making a comment and also wanting to say that I hope that that program will be reviewed and decided if the expense of having 8 police officers on bikes is really the most effective for their position. That's one comment that I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And again, I think we're operating in the boundaries of managing the problem, not so much solving the problem. So even I'm talking about managing a problem right now, not ending homelessness with bicycle police officers. So I just want to be very clear about that. But there is a need to also manage the public safety and public health issues that are occurring today on our streets while we try to develop long-term solutions.
Go ahead, Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. I also want to say that I have been advocating for probably almost 2 years to increase the homeless service team, and I'm very excited about that. I've also been trying to figure out ways to find funding to make sure that the SOS team can be funded and increased, especially with now Covanta being closed and the extra cost of the trash that's picked up. So I will just again say I'm very excited about the homeless service team being expanded and the SOS team. I think this is something that will be very important and very impactful for the whole community.
Thank you. Councilor Matthews.
Kind of, just so I make sure that I kind of get the holistic idea of the bike team and what their objectives will be. I know that somehow or another, this always gets devolved down, it seems like, into homelessness and talking specifically about that, but their role won't be just to respond to homeless issues or that transient community, correct? It'll be to respond to crime as a whole in the downtown core area. And so, like I see here on drug prevention and enforcement, that's a big aspect for me. And so I kind of want to know that that's going to be a larger holistic part of their role.
Anytime you have a proactive community policing model, the whole idea there is long-term problem solving in partnership with your community. So yes, that's what they would be doing. They'd be developing relationships with business owners, with property owners or residents downtown, understanding the problems, whether it's anything from parking to traffic safety to violent crime to drugs. They have the dedicated time to understand the problem and work on it more long-term. So that is the idea. Right now, you're getting a 911 response when something happens after the fact. So the idea with the downtown community policing team is that positive police presence that's helping solve problems and building relationships with folks along the way. An example of just the overtime that we're using right now, there's a lot of flexibility with that too. So these officers just aren't working Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We're adjusting their hours daily and on weekends and nights. So there was one incident recently with over 30 youth hanging out after hours at Riverfront Park. We get a lot of complaints about that. And those officers that were there filling the gaps on overtime were able to make contact, issue warnings, get those kids out of the park before before something bad happened. We've seen shootings and things there with gatherings like this before. So it's that proactive ability to address that before something happens is what I'm talking about. Pringle Parkade as well. The reason we're seeing some more attention there is because we have our overtimes there, officers there being proactive and paying attention. So it's that sort of policing that you all in the community are asking for that I'm being responsive to.
Thank you, Chief. Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Chief, I don't really have a question. There may be, but it's more of a statement, and probably also for the city manager to speak to. So there's a lot of concern about Northeast Salem, and we keep hearing a lot of that. The hot spots. And so I guess when we think about this collective approach that we are moving into, do we have hopes to sit down with the county to kind of figure out what a dual partnership will look like when it comes to having an SOS unit in the northeast part of Salem? Like, is that a conversation that we can have also, rather than, just putting a lot of our energy and efforts per se downtown? And so that's why I'm putting that out there.
I'll just say when it comes to the SOS team and the HST partnership, right? You have 2 police officers partner up with a cleanup crew, basically, right? That's your team. They're not just downtown, they're citywide. And so the hot spots, and I don't even like that term, frankly.
Me either.
So it just gets used too often because it's easily understandable, but these are areas where there's more calls for service, more need. So the SOS team and HST officers are prioritized on a weekly basis between a partnership with Gretchen Bennett and myself and the police department and all the needs throughout the city, and we determine where they are any given day or week. So that team is already prioritized around town, not just in the downtown area.
Right. And I do just want to say, just for the record, we had that business forum a couple of weeks ago, and, I know, or we know that, folks who are homeless, yes, it's not illegal to be homeless. And we do have to find a way to make sure that we can meet the needs of the most vulnerable. I think at that same time in meeting those needs, I think we're going to have to find a way to educate our community, only because there are some folks who believe that when you see graffiti, it's automatically attached to a gang. And that's not accurate information. And so a part of me says, as we kind of go through this, strategic plan and discussing what we can do better or change, I think there's the educational component that needs to go with that also. Even when it comes to providing for those individuals who want a place to sleep, rather than them being on the street. It seems like there's a lot of education that has to go on behind this. And I'm excited for that conversation. I'm excited to see what those changes will look like, feel like, and sound like. I just know that as we kind of look into the next year, that none of it is going to be easy. None of it. So I yield the floor, Madam Mayor.
Councilor Bang.
Thank you, Mayor. This is more of a comment than anything. So when the Northeast Salem Business Forum was scheduled, I wasn't able to attend because we were still trying to figure out ethical issues, and then I had a work conflict, so I wasn't able to attend. But now that we have had some clarifications and really starting to look at the solutions provided for public safety and the unsheltered. Part of what I want to do is ensure that our residents downtown and especially Northeast Salem and our community partners who work directly with our unsheltered have the ability to share their perspectives and help us craft those long-term solutions to help manage our public safety and livability issues. Because I think any issue or any solution that we propose, it needs to be balanced with respect for our unsheltered, with our business community, and with our residents. And it needs to ensure that we respect people's rights and their dignity, and at the center of it, respecting everybody's humanity. And so I think that's really important, and that's what I come to this conversation with. And so, City Manager, like Councilor Nordyke, I really appreciate the strategic plan that you have created and color code. I myself love a color-coded calendar or solution. It helps me easily identify what I'm looking for and what I'm looking at. And so with that said, I had received some feedback from my neighborhood associations about the couple of forums that have been hosted. And I'm glad to see on the strategic plan that the city and city manager, you have had the foresight to plan for additional meetings with our residents and our community partners, because the feedback that I've gotten from my neighborhood association was that the first couple ones that were hosted were not well attended. They felt last minute, and some of the residents who were in attendance felt sidelined or that they were not heard. And so I appreciate that there are going to be more opportunities for the city to invite our residents and our community partners to be part of the solutions. So that's really more my comments. And then to end on a question, Councilor Varney did bring up the issue of public restrooms, and I want the city to explore how can we utilize the infrastructure that we already have or the partnerships that we already have to make public restrooms more available, whether that is through working with our community partners further so that they can expand their day hours, or providing temporary infrastructures. I don't know what that solution looks like, but I think part of cleanliness is having public restrooms too. So, thank you.
Go right ahead. Thank you. I just wanted to kind of go back to Chief Womack's comment about the proactive versus reactive services. This is something that we have shifted as an organization from proactive to reactive service model, which is expensive for the city. The piece that me and the leadership team have been working on, and I do think that we are in the right direction here, is when it comes to operating any agency, we have to be very strategic about understanding what is the cost of operations for 10 years rather than focusing on cost of operations for 1 year at a time. Because the moment you are like focusing on that particular year, not thinking about how this impacts the community and the organization, it is going to be more expensive. So the point about the proactive versus reactive services, this is kind of true throughout the organization, but especially for the police. We have shifted completely from the proactive to reactive services as the demand for service has increased. So we do have to, at some point, pivot and move in the direction about investing into resources that help us to manage proactively so that we spend less money over a 10-year time frame. So just kind of want to add that.
Councilor Nishioka.
Another comment. I want to thank both Councilor Vang and Councilor Varney for bringing up the restroom. I know that sometime, I think it's been almost a year, I had spoken with Director Martin about the Portland Loo, about a possibility, something that could be open more or more available and not locked as quickly as it could. So I want to just thank both of you for bringing that up. I think that it is something that the city will need to look at, not for just visitors, for everybody. So anyway, thank you very much.
All right. Anyone else? You know, it just, as I hear you speak about the restrooms, and I know I've had a bit of information given to me about the history of restrooms in, say, the Marion Square Park downtown and how it doesn't go well. They get firebombed. It's not sustainable. If we put up a permanent facility, it's going to cost money to maintain. So just to keep that in mind as we have those discussions, I think would be wise. Also, I heard you say it loud and clear, I believe, but sustainability has to be the goal in all of this. We cannot continue this pattern of finding some money, and doing something temporary. We need to figure out a plan for Salem that is sustainable. So those are my thoughts. Anyone else? Well, interim city manager Nunbury, thank you for organizing everything into one place. I think it's been very helpful for all of us to be able to see it there. I'd like to see another one, actually, that has our partners on it, so we can see how the pieces come together and might be able to work together. But maybe that'll happen with the Bloomberg-Harvard collaboration help. Okay. So if there is nothing further on that, we will move forward to item 5B. Councilor Nishioka.
Yes, thank you. I move that the City Council conduct a performance evaluation of interim city manager Krishna Namburi and direct the city attorney to distribute a city manager evaluation form to each member of the council.
Second. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. So in September, we have always had a city manager evaluation. In March, when Ms. Namburi was appointed interim city manager, the month that we were looking towards to make considerations of how to move forward was the month of September. And so I wanted to be proactive. We're going to talk about proactive and bringing this motion forward so that we could have the opportunity to each of us submit evaluations and then bring this to our city attorney so we can find out what our next direction will be.
Thank you. Any comment? Question? Yeah, question. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the evaluations that you're speaking about, Councilor Nishioka, is that we all do one evaluation for her? Is that how that works, or how does that work?
I will let the city attorney answer your questions.
Oh, thank you.
Dan Atchison, City Attorney. So the attachment to the motion is a revised version of the city manager's evaluation form that was most recently used, I believe in 23-24. So it's been updated a little bit. What I would propose is that if the motion passes, I will provide a copy of this form to each member of council. Maybe I can use some of that desktop publishing expertise that Krishna referred to, and we can get a PDF fillable form that you could type and select the options as indicated in the form. We would send that out to you. You would get it back to me. It's supposed to be anonymous, so don't sign it. Don't put your name on it, so we can figure out a system for that. In several years ago, the evaluation process was a little less formal. There was a hand document, a piece of paper that was the evaluation form. The counselors would fill that out, put it in a sealed envelope without their signature on it, and just hand it into legal. So something similar to that, basically. It's not try to reinvent the wheel, but I can get it out to you and provide a procedure where you can get it back to me anonymously. I would take the different evaluations, combine the scores essentially to provide you an average score for each category, and then summarize the comments without attribution to a particular member of council, which hopefully I won't be able to identify from the comments.
And Councilor Vang did just show it to me, so I think I'm missing an email. So with those questions, are those questions that we can add to, or are they're already like, we're going to use these questions?
That's just the form that was used previously. If council wants to revise those or add questions or delete questions, we're welcome to do it. We would need a sort of a council consensus, a motion to make those changes.
But not here tonight. That's later on.
Well, my plan, if the motion passes, is to get the form out to everyone for them to fill out as soon as practical. We are getting close to the September time frame. Now, council's action when they set that was just, as a sort of a guide to say, okay, when we get to September, let's figure out what our next steps are. So to be consistent with that, if councilors fill this form out and get it back to me, say by the end of the month, I would compile it and get a summary version back to council at sometime in early mid-September. Council could then review that, provide feedback to me to make changes, and then the next step would be for council to meet with the city manager in executive session to discuss the evaluation.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilor Matthews.
Or Shane, whatever, it all works. First off, I appreciate the motion because I think it's great that, like, if I were to read this, and I know in the past we've used consultants for this sort of thing, I think it's more than something that's more than capable you handed internally, and so I think it's great that your motion kind of accounts for that. The only question I had to the motion is I don't see, like, I see that we're getting surveyed in this, but I don't see the department heads are being surveyed. Are they surveyed elsewhere in a different survey, or is that?
In prior iterations of city manager evaluations, we have sought 360-degree feedback. Given this is the interim city manager, I hadn't considered expanding the scope of that beyond the city council. But if council would like to do that, we can certainly expand it as you see fit.
Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent question, something that I hadn't thought about. I think that it may be interesting to have some feedback from the other members of the leadership team. I don't know if, I'm not sure if Mr. Atchison feels we have enough time, or if we want to maybe expand the end of August, early September to overlap a week or something. I would think that it might be something reasonably simple, but I think that your suggestion is an excellent idea.
Not to disparage council, but I'm sure the staff will get the forms back quicker than staff and council will. So if you'd like to expand it to what we call the executive leadership team, which is department heads and a few other members of staff, we can do that. That's not a problem.
Can you tell them how many people that would add?
Approximately 10.
Go ahead, Councilor Matthews.
I mean, I can only speak to my thought on that, but for me, I know that all of these will be compiled, and then we'll kind of review them as a council. I think it would be helpful for me to see, staff feedback on that, and so that'd be my opinion.
If we do that, one thing that I would try to do is differentiate in the ratings between the leadership team and the council, so you have that, you can tell who's who as far as how the ratings go between the two.
Because they're with her every day, right? Yeah. Yeah, and have to work together a lot more closely. Yeah, Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. The suggestion of maybe somebody helping who can put together a form might be of benefit to be able to separate that out. So I'm hoping that Ms. Dunbury can speak to her excellent staff that helped her with her presentation. Maybe ours will even be as pretty and color-coded.
So I just have to say, Dan is in charge of IT department right now. He has access to staff more than I do at this point, so I'm pretty sure he'll figure it out.
Councilor Vang.
Thank you, Mayor. Going back to Councilor Brown's earlier comment, I also missed the suggested question that Mr. Atchison had sent out, and lo and behold, it was on page 3 of the email, and so you're not the only one, Councilor Brown. I'm right there with you. But this is more of a comment more than a question, but I think I made it pretty clear earlier this year of what my thoughts were with Ms. Namburi being interim city manager, and had voiced my support for her appointment. But I think as a city councilor, with the additional information from Councilor Nordijk, I think it's in my due diligence for my constituents to participate and engage in this feedback and assessment to give the council better direction on what our next steps are. And I think including the department heads is a good piece of information to have. And so I would support expanding to have the departments also be included. Thank you.
I would prefer a motion just so it's clear that it's council's direction, although I think it sounds fairly unanimous. The other idea is that we would want to maybe take a look at the questions and see if they're appropriate for the leadership team, if we needed to make any variation to that. Regarding the questions, I understand for some members you're just seeing this questionnaire for the first time. So if council wants to, take the next week or so to review the evaluation form, you could come back on the 25th and provide changes. You could send your individual changes to me on the side, and then we could have that ready for the 25th, and then council would approve the new form. That's one option. That just delays the process for a few weeks and kind of shortens our time frame to get your responses back to me and for me to get my work done on that. But that's totally up to you. Again, the September date is more of a guideline than a hard and fast deadline, so if it bleeds into October before we have a clear path forward, so be it.
Councilor Tigan?
Yeah, just note at the last page of the questionnaire, there's something that says additional comments. So I think if there's anything that isn't asked of the council in the evaluation that they'd like to discuss, I think there's a sort of place to do that. So that seems, I would say, use that liberally rather than wait 2 weeks.
I agree, Councilor Tigan. I think that's an excellent point. Also that we have, lost my train of thought, that, just let's get it out and get it back. And should the amendment contain something about the opportunity to amend questions for staff?
I would appreciate a little bit of discretion on my part to modify the questions so they're specific to staff. I'll make sure that the intent and the scope of the question remains the same.
Great. Thank you. So
do you want me to go ahead and make an amended motion?
Yes, please.
All right, so help me out if I need some. I move to amend the motion to conduct a performance evaluation of interim city manager Krishnan Amburi to include the leadership team filling out the form.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll? Oh, Councilor Tigan, did you have something?
I was just going to say, for the record, I think with, as Attorney Atchison asked, just the discretion to adjust the questionnaire as necessary to match the responsibilities of the leadership team.
Great, thank you for adding that.
Do you want me to add, do you want me to put that? No.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Gwynn.
And aye, but I want to make sure we're voting on the amended motion and then.
Council is now voting on the amendment to the main motion. After you vote on this, you'll go back to the main motion as amended and vote on that.
That's what I thought. Thank you. Aye.
Councilor Brown.
Aye.
Councilor Vang.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke. Aye. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. That motion passes. Let's do the next.
Councilor Brown.
Aye.
Councilor Vang.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to fix the air conditioner.
Second.
Yes, please.
It's so hot up here.
We need those little fans.
Oh my golly. Okay, moving on to
Information reports. I'll go ahead and read these off. If anybody needs to have any discussion, please just stop me. Item 6A, appointment of city councilors to the Riparian Advisory Committee. That would be Councilors Mickey Varney and Deanna Gwynn. Item 6.B, Planning Administrator decision, a replat to consolidate 4 lots into 1 property. Approved. Item 6C, Planning Administrator, a validation of unit of land, then a tentative partition to divide the land area to create 2 parcels. Approved. Item 6D, a hearings officer decision, a conditional use permit for a short-term rental within an existing single-family dwelling. Approved. Item 6E, a hearings officer decision, an application for site alterations and tree and vegetation removal associated with the establishment of temporary construction and staging areas required for proposed seismic improvements to the Center Street Bridge and the future repaving of a portion of the north parking lot of Riverfront Park, following its use as a temporary construction staging area. Approved. Item 6F, the hearings officer decision to remove condition 1 related to street requirements from CPC-NPC-ZC12-03, approved. Item 6G, City of Salem fiscal year 2025 quarter 4 financial report, preliminary. Councilor Matthews.
I pulled the wrong one. Go ahead, keep going.
Moving on. Item 6H, purchases approved administratively from May 1st, 2025 through May 31st, 2025.
That's
Councilor Matthews.
Yeah, thank you.
Shane.
Sorry, I was a little gun happy. So, and this is really more of, and I'm not exactly sure if I need a motion for this or what, but it's more of a, I guess, I'd like to have more information brought back to council on more of a holistic way of how we currently do our contractors of record. So for instance, as I started looking into some of them today, one of them caught my attention and I had some historical knowledge on it. And when I started looking at it, I knew that the bid had been won for instance, the playground chips that are in there. I think it's for like $75,000. The bid was won at, I think, a $23,000, $500 mark. But when it comes to council, at a $75,000 spending capacity for the year. And so I know this is all still within statewide rules, and I'm sure it is, but I don't think I recognize that sometimes what's actually the bids are and what's actually coming to council are different. And so when we talked about it today, it sounds like I need kind of council motion in order for us to decide that we want to hear more about that is kind of the takeaway of what I heard. Not just about that one instance per se, but just how the overall process of these consultants of record happen and how the amounts that come to us are actually calculated. Does that make sense?
Dan Atchison, City Attorney. So Councilor Matthews and I and other staff spent a fair bit of time discussing this matter. What I would suggest is either the staff can bring back an information report that kind of details the procurement process as it is in the City of Salem, including the specific process for consultants of record, and we can talk specifically about this particular purchase. But does that cover the scope of what you're referring to?
It does. I do not want to get in the weeds of trying to talk about specifically this one as the fact that it's not about this one instance. It's just this was the one that was flagged today. And so if it's used as an example, that's fine. But I do want to make sure that I'm not advocating in any way, one way or the other, for what happens with this particular purchase.
My preference is that we do bring back a written motion because I want to ensure that we capture the scope of what you want us to discuss.
I'd like to just take exactly what you said and repeat that. Should have written that down. That would have been better.
Give it a try, sir. You want to try, Shane?
All right. I move for city staff to bring back a full informational report on how our current procurement works, including and not limited to contractors of record.
Second.
I'm sorry, I do need to interject. So a motion like this is typically something that's brought in writing a week before the meeting. It's submitted to the city manager, and then it's brought to the next agenda. If just to make sure we're playing by the same rules for all members of council, if council wants to move on this motion tonight, you would need to suspend the rules by a 2/3 vote and then vote on the motion. My suggestion is we just, we provide a written motion, put it on the next agenda, and make sure we cover everything you want us to cover.
Okay, sounds good.
Sorry, I'm getting some airtime tonight. With that, if by consensus, do you wish to withdraw your motion you just made? We'll bring that back in writing at a future meeting.
So withdrawn.
Okay, anything further on that? All right. Let's see. Yes.
Sorry, this is not towards this particular 6H, but an earlier one that you had read. I was not fast enough in hitting my mic, but I'm glad that counselors are getting appointed on committees, and as a new counselor, I am excited to get my committee assignments and hope to get them soon. So, thank you.
We're working on it. Thank you so much. We're glad you're here. Okay, we are moving on then. No, we are done with information reports, no ordinances, no first readings, second readings. Do we have any public comment? No? Yes, Councilor Brown, would you like to give public comment?
Yes, may I? I do want to just share something in regards to my outburst earlier. I know you all heard it. So I'm not going to apologize for the outburst, but I just want to say on behalf of this body, I am very protective of this group. And when we come in here in 100-degree weather and we sit at these tables, and we are doing this out of the good service of our hearts. I'm very protective when people come here, and we do want to hear everyone. I think the lady who spoke out, she's no longer here, but my comment would be that this could be a place where people can share their thoughts without counselors or even the mayor being ridiculed or called names. That, to me, is it creates an environment to where people just do not feel safe. And so what we're trying to do, and I think Madam Mayor is doing an excellent job of this, is just to provide a space where people can be heard. And when people, just blurt things out, it creates a ripple effect. And although that lady is gone, my comment would have been, just please refrain from saying that because, we're all doing our best to serve the best we can. So.
Well, Councilor Brown, not to get all mushy, but that does my heart good to hear you say that. And I feel that nature in you, that you are looking out for the good of this council, and I appreciate it very much. Any other comments? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.